Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for what is, again, I want to say Wednesday, but it's not Wednesday. It's Thursday today. The holiday shortened week has me a little bit confused. It always does when we have Monday off, but so today is Thursday. We've got one more trading day of the week. Some interesting themes and interesting price action for the day. Before I get into any of that, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Also, before we get to today, just interesting to kind of take a look at where we are for the month at this point. So we've gone through, where's my calendar? There it is. So today's the 7th. We've got one more day, like I said, of the trading week, but we're basically going to be through 2 days of the trading week. I guess when you look at it like that, even though, I mean, it's not 2 weeks, obviously, it's basically 1 week, but we're kind of a bit shortened here with options. I believe options expiration is next week. So, just to keep things in perspective and where we are so far, this point in the month, you've got SPY down 1.2%. Qs are down 1.6%, and then the small and the mid caps are both down over 2%. I like to always kind of just take a look at some of the stats as we go along and start the month. But here's where we started. So this was the 4th trading day of the month officially, but we've had so far 3 down days, even though Friday was a small down day. And this is the Q's performance, it's not the S&P. But just to kind of give you a little bit of a picture that this has not been such an easy week so far. And considering, remember last week, which now is a little bit of a distant memory, but we had that nice strength and nice breadth move the last week of August, but it's changed a bit so far this month. So we haven't had a nicey crossover yet. I'm referring to the McClellan oscillator, but it's something to keep an eye on. For now, I think today was, I would say, somewhat constructive from where we started the day. We've had a lot of these days where we've started down and really haven't been able to come back up. There was a note out that I saw by Zero Hedge. They were quoting, I guess, Goldman's one of their trading desk, and they were talking about how that there really wasn't much buy the dip yesterday. I agreed. Like, you could see that on the charts, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that we move down and we don't really move off the lows, right? It just shows that there's really not that buy the dip mentality. Today, perhaps some traders were enticed to kind of get back involved a little bit with some things. Here's where we were for the S&P. This is just a 5-minute chart, and we did come back. We kind of double tested here around 10:30. We tested the lows of the session. Note there was a version point of control that was taken out, so that was a nice little spot to watch for the morning. And again, there was no major crazy end of the day move, even though I heard that there was an MOC buy imbalance. Here's what Qs look like from the lows. This was a little bit more straightforward than S&P was. That outperformed, even though this opened up lower than the S&P, it outperformed over the trading session, right? And that's always why I have in my spreadsheet, right? I look to see what areas of the market outperformed after the open, right? So Qs out of the indices, again, I laugh because they were down quite a bit, but they out from the open, they were up 0.5%, right? SPY moved a little bit, and the small caps still are struggling. They're down another 1%. I didn't show the small caps. We'll go over kind of the major. We'll go over the daily charts in each one of these indices, and I forgot to do small caps in yesterday's video. But yeah, I mean, this is back to the 200-day moving average. There was a little bit of call buying, and I actually tried buying the small caps a little bit just for a day trade. It worked just a little bit, but again, some of these things, the indices, they're just not giving that much of a range to really make big trades or trades to really work that well on the long side. At least that's what I've noticed so far in this month. I was going through, P&L for so far month to date, which I'm basically flat in my trading account. So I'm outperforming the market a little bit, but it's been a struggle. There's just not a lot of big winners. I've had a couple things that I've held overnight and gotten dinged on. And that stinks because it's not easy to make back that money. So I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video. So sometimes I do this. I tend to jump ahead, but yeah, the small caps are just a mess. Back at this 200-day moving average, could this be a head and shoulders? It could. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. I would watch to see what happens at the 200-day moving average and see if they continue to break lower, because now this is another test of that big thick white line that I've got drawn in here, the 200-day moving average. But when I see a chart like this, which looks like really difficult and I'll say it again, a mess sideways, I really don't do much with it. I kind of glance at it every now and then, but it's too difficult, right? I've been talking a lot about that with the gold and silver charts, right? They're just too difficult. The silver chart, it had a couple weeks of nice performance, and it's talk about no follow through, just gives it all back. All right. And that's what gold and silver have been doing. So I put some of these things that are just too difficult, I just put them on the shelf, right? There's so many other things to trade, right? So no gold, no silver, no small caps for me. I try to stick with things that are a bit easier. The Qs, right? So this is really mixed signals. So I talked about some of those 5-minute charts. Here's where we are for the Qs. So this is why this is really mixed signals, right? So this is the 1-hour chart. Of course, we get a new value area every week, which is based on the previous week's price and volume activity. So we've come down, we started the week inside value, and we've just been kind of going lower here. We did find support right where we needed to, right where that 370.49 level is, right? So that's nice. That's a nice bounce off of that. But I would really be paying attention. So that's kind of like the kick save for today. And I would watch that tomorrow, 370.49, and if we can build off of that. Because when we look at the bigger picture on the daily chart, this does not look so good. So what do I not like here with this chart? Right? What's the problem here? Well, we started the period, the beginning of the month, above the value area, and we've crossed into the value area. That triggers the bearish 80% rule, right? These rules kind of help a little bit with, for me, in taking risk and understanding that this is not a good setup. The other thing that's troubling here is that we're below, or we're right around these moving averages, but at the very least, we're below the 5-period moving average. So I like to have much cleaner, nicer things and much easier setups. So this is a work in progress. Now, of course, if you want to, you could do things like, okay, you could think I'm going to buy the dip right off of this. That's fine, in my opinion, as long as you bail if it breaks the value area, or whatever stop that you set. You can always try trades as long as you have your out, right? And that's not that far away, so you won't get damaged that badly if it breaks the value area. So that's the way I kind of look at things. It's all about risk reward. It's all about looking at where, before you get into the trade, how you're going to proceed, right? Where your stop price is, right? Because in this market, like I hate to say it, and this is 90% of the people that I see on Twitter, they never talk about any losers. They just don't address it, right? And this is really, I talked about how I'm flat for the month, right? I've just really been trying to be tight with taking off names that aren't working quickly, even though I lost some money on this AEHR, which I was long yesterday, but you can't really help that. You can't help that you're holding a position that looks like it's going to break out, and the next day it opens up down 4 or 5%. It's nothing you could do but just take it off and move on. But how you manage your losers when you've got a tape like this is how you're going to define your month, right? It's not going to be, oh, geez, this was a great chart setup and I took it and I made some money on it. Okay, that's great, right? That's one half of the equation. But in this market where the market is down, when you've got a market like this, where we've had, you know, basically poor breath almost every day so far this month, right? How this is, and with the Qs down 1.5%, you're going to have to manage. It's so much more about managing the losers than it is about, you know, the winners, in my opinion, when you've got a market like this. So I think that's kind of one of the best things I could tell you in this video. We can kind of begin to kind of go through. I just wanted to go over this 1 hour chart here for S&P because it's a little bit different looking than the Qs. But notice that we broke the value area. So again, the Qs, even though they were down a little bit more, the Qs were down more than the just need to double check that. They ended up, they ended up down twice as much as the S&P. But the technical picture still looks a little bit better in the Qs, and really 4463, or if you want a SPY level, watch this level right here, which is right around 445. Again, you don't need the exact level to the penny. 445 is something to concentrate on, right? And this is a big decision area. It's a pivot area. So I don't have a crystal ball. I think you just basically have to wait to see how that works. Also note that we made a lower high here, looking at the peak of August, September, right? And we're back below all these moving averages. So I would have to say, like, I'm more conservative looking at these charts, or think that there could be more downside before things straighten out. But I think that's a great level to watch, is that 445 in the S&P in SPY. All right, so let's go through some charts. All right, so that's enough about you know, some of these things just don't look very good. Let's talk about some stocks that are performing a little bit better, right? This one, you know, I have a small position in this one. I'm not going to take a big position in this, right? Freshworks. I've never traded this thing before, ever. So, you know, we've been seeing some call activity. They had a their investor event today. The stock acted pretty well, but I'm taking profits into strength because there are so many of these small software names. It's insane. Like, you know, I could rattle off 20 small software names, and I challenge many of the people who are quoting, you know, these, you know, this chart or that chart and this name. If you could differentiate between what services this software name does with Asana, or I think one name that reported BRZE after hours, there are so many of these little software names that I don't know how you can put on a big position in any of them, because I don't think there's much differentiation between much of them. So you have to really kind of manage those trades. You know, like one I saw today, which got a lot of mention today, was APPN. Okay, that's another software. There's so many of them, right? So you know, I question whether there's any differentiation in any of these software names. But, you know, while if they've got momentum to them, you know, you could trade them for a day trade and maybe hold a small piece, you know, because overall the software group is holding up very well. Right. And I still like, you know, I'm in Oracle. I'm going to try to hold some Oracle into, I'll take it off before they report earnings. They report next week. But, you know, that's another one that, you know, and I will stay in names that are showing some relative strength for now. All right. Microsoft. That is still challenged with the 50-day moving average, right? We talked about that a couple days ago, saying, hey, it got back above the 50-day moving average. It hasn't really been able to do much since then. Note it's still holding above its value area for the month. So watch that 329 level. Again, I think it's worth keeping that name on your watch list. Google is a name that I decided to buy the dip in, right? Everything was down this morning. I never go to the name that is in the headline. You know, Apple, of course, was deep in the headlines today. Everything's down. So I don't need to mess with Apple, because that's the name in the spotlight, right? I'd rather pick on something like a Google, which was down 1% and didn't have any bad news on it, right? That's always when there's something going on in technology, there's so many names that get hit on a story that's not really affecting them. I would rather go to the name that's not being affected. So, you know, this has been a very slow name, but it's been constructive, right? And as long as it holds 132, I will continue to kind of, you know, buy the dip essentially. So that did work out for me today. A few other names that kind of that I'm watching. You know, speaking of another software type growth name, Fastly is another name that, has been acting really well. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I'm getting more interested in it. Another software name. Again, some of these names, they look very similar. APP, right? Watch to see if we can get above, out of the value area, which it is for the month, but also out of the value area for the week as well. All right, and one more name, which I think everybody has been realizing is a pretty strong looking chart, is VRT, right? And this name had a really nice probably one of the nicest candles, out of growth names. I can go through a few other names, kind of this growth area. ELF, which I know is also one that's been acting so well. It had 3 red candles and boom, went lower this morning, and this is just as nice as that the candle for VRT. Really impressive ELF to get back above the value area. Watch that 135.92 level. A few names out of this high growth name. I would say one that's interesting is this AXON, right? So this is the old taser, right? This has been holding in pretty well. It's been quietly, it was, I think a lot of people were watching it, obviously, when this made its run up. Once it started to break down, notice that it needed like basically a whole quarter to get straight again, once it had this bad earnings reaction. So a whole quarter, broke up here, a lot of consolidation in here, and a move higher, and then is neatly consolidating right above its value area. So I would watch 209.87 for this one. The energy space, I love what the refiners are doing. PBF, really solid candle for the day too, acting much different than what I showed you with the indices. PSX, which is a name that I talked about in over the weekend, right? I did take this trade today. I kind of wish hindsight 2020, I wish I would have taken the PBF, but very strong there. What else do I have on my this was also one that I had on the watch list coming into the week. I had the alert go off in this one, and it was one of those things where you're in the middle of something, you hear an alert go off, and I had my alert set at 151.14, and I forgot to take a look at the name. I looked at it an hour later, and it made the move that I was looking for, but that's okay. I did add a position a little bit late to this one. Why would I do that even though I was a little bit late? Because I really like the consolidation. This thing consolidated. I love the I was gonna say jumbled up price action in here, and then resolving higher. So I think it's nice to have something that's different, right? As I rattled off about a bunch of those high growth names, right? I don't think it's smart. Again, I'm interjecting a lot of my opinion here in this video today, but I don't think it's smart to have 7 or 8 high growth names, because this market doesn't want that right now, right? I mean, some of these names are holding up very well, but there are going to be days like you see with an IONQ, right, which was down 13% today. They will all get washed out like this. They're part of the same type of group. So when there's volatility in high growth, that's really where you can cause damage to yourself. And again, it's not like there's any, there could be any major news. Sometimes they'll just open up all down like 5 or 6%, no problem. So in my opinion, it is much better to have like a CBOE or an energy name, right, as a little bit of change or diversification in the names that you're holding. So this way, if high growth has a tough day, right, maybe a PBF or another refiner or another energy name will do well. I was going to mention, so that's just a lot of things that I I think about during the day. One other thing I would say is in this market, as I mentioned, the performance for the month, and September, of course, we know is a weak seasonal month. Be picky and be very highly selective. It's okay to turn down names. It's okay to look at a name and say, hey, well, I already have a software name on, or hey, I already have an energy name on, right? Be picky, highly selective in this tape until the breath picks up and acts better. Last name, considering it's the beginning of football season tonight, DraftKings. Watch what DraftKings does at 30.70. Now this made a nice move in here, And sometimes it's a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news, but all the big games start this weekend. So maybe this runs, might end up being a day trade or something like that for tomorrow. It's a name that I actually traded a little bit yesterday. Didn't trade today, but I'm thinking tonight for the game, we've got Kansas City, Detroit. I'm looking for the upset for Detroit. I know Kansas City's at home and is very good at home. You don't know if Kelsey's going to play. I like, if you know what a teaser is, I like teasing Detroit and the under. I think you're able to get 10.5 points with Detroit, and I like the under. So I'll giving you considering it's the start of football season, there's my football pick as well for tonight. Guys, have a great night. Enjoy the game, and thanks for watching today's video.